remember that they're changing my voice. When we look at American values, we must all know right away that first of all, they do not matter. America is just a country that is made up by people. They made imaginary lines, as Donald Trump would say, and they just made it up. What matters is right and wrong. Not what any nation values per se, but what is right and what is wrong. So, as I heard on the news, or I read on the news, because of my condition, I can't listen to the videos, I have to read it because I've been fumed and poisoned so much. And at one point I was blinded for several days, and I have to wear special glasses as a result, what have you. When people say, change your point of view. It reminds me of the Freemasons and the blindfolding rituals that they do. Very silly of them to do it. Freemasonry should not be the core value of America. Neither should propaganda narratives of the American Revolution. So they said that, the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution is coming up, while they're denying me my constitutional rights. While they claim that it's one nation under God, right? While they're persecuting me for having proven that I'm the son of God, why a bunch of racist Europeans and Jews and LGBT people, many of them very typical, throwing fits, arrogant, narcissistic, very typical. These people you see on the news these days, making funny faces, weird looks with their eyes. You haven't noticed it? Look at the news, right? These news clips they put out there quite often, not in every clip, but quite often you see them making some kind of what's best described as a creepy or evil look. Sometimes with their eyes, right? They have this very evil look in their eyes. And they said, that they want me to not insult the founding fathers and things like this, right? Keep in mind I'm being fumed very heavily right now. And America is supposed to be a nation with a constitution. And regardless of what color Christ was, and the founding fathers did not believe they knew the color of Jesus Christ. They're supposed to put Christ above the founding fathers. When they set the stage for Edmund Bowen to be gunned down in front of the Urban Alchemy Center, and they did that silly kind of ritual memorial for him, just like the Charlie Kirk memorial is very mature, very occultic, very typical quote-unquote Illuminati-like ritual, right, or whatever you want to call it. It's a very weirdo ritual, okay? When they play stupid, after all those conspiracy theorists, the ones who weren't talking crazy about crazy ideas, the ones who were talking about facts, when they've been proven right, that there are secret societies and cults, and I myself am one of them, that are manipulating society, and that it's a huge threat and that people should do something about it. But everyone to this day is still playing stupid about that, even after Keith Rainier and Epstein and the Hollywood networks like Weinstein and Cosby were extremely exposed. They kept playing stupid. Is the American spirit a spirit of playing stupid, of doing stupid frat-like pranks, of dressing like a weirdo, like a Freemason? Is that what the American spirit is? It's pathetic. That is beta and punk. Is the American spirit putting on a wig and raping and massacring Native Americans and enslaving people and pretending to be superior? That's nothing to be proud of. See, America is supposed to be a country that overcomes that kind of oppression. Nathan Bedford Forrest, who started the Klan, was a Freemason. They're supposed to overcome those fraternities and those secret societies that really were horrible and evil and did a lot of horrible things to people, including American citizens, which I do not put above anyone else. If there's no Jew or Gentile, Galatians 3:28, how could there be an American and a non-American? Those of you who prioritize American lives ought to be very ashamed of yourselves, especially if you call yourselves Christians. You are walking contradictions. As they change my voice and try to make my speeches like a propaganda Obama speech or something, they should be very ashamed of themselves. Here the 250th anniversary is coming up, and they won't even give the Son of God his freedom of speech. And he gets some kind of racist homosexual throwing a fit. Maybe they have a yarmulke on, maybe they're in a church. They're in all cultures these days, throwing a racist fit. Trying to work with the government to deny me my freedom of speech because they don't like my argument. If you don't like the freedom of religion, which is something that is fair enough because it allows for the opportunity for me to make my case in a country that comes from a continent that has a long history of denying people that opportunity. You probably should go somewhere else. You should probably start off by shutting the fuck up because you sound like a bitch when you're saying things that reflect that you think you should deny me my freedom of speech. They think that the fits of rich people should be more important than right and wrong, and more important than the Constitution. Now, because they fume me and poison me, I have to release videos as is. You know, I don't remake videos very often. It's very rare that I remake a video. I just release it. They change the sound of my voice, etc. And everyone knows they do these things. Everyone knows that that's how things go in this country and abroad, really. So, when we're looking at these events that are occurring, right? The Bowen killing, right? I just talked about David Bowie, and his name is very similar to David Bowie's name. And I was talking about the wordplay. Okay. Matter of fact, I'm going to release a picture of the YouTube, the order I watched the YouTube videos after this for good measure. Actually, I watched it on more than one channel, so I'm probably not going to do that, actually. But anyway, so we see that connection, though, between the Bowen shooting, okay, the event in Manchester, the stabbing at the synagogue, and Stephen Miller talking about how they're going to unleash law enforcement in some American city. There's been this stupid game where they want to bring in the National Guard, they make a big fuss. It's all about reinforcing their cultural values. And it is immature. The people behind this almost certainly are like twice my age. You know, they're 70, they're 80, what have you. 90. You know, they're about twice my age, give or take. And there's some people who are more like my age, a little bit older. These are supposed to be very grown adults who are acting like fucking children. Our values! No, I don't want them to do it that way! They are acting fucking immature. Because in their genes, they are immature. It's like George Washington looked like a fucking kid. These aren't people who are supposed to be in charge. And if you look like a kid and that's how naturally you look, and it's not your fault, great. But that's not what we're seeing here. We're seeing that people who look like fucking kids are acting like kids. And those bitch-ass motherfuckers who are sabotaging other people and try to make them look like kids too. So they can play a spectrum game. And look at how I look compared to him. Play stupid about my white privilege. That's so fucking stupid. They look so stupid. And millions of people are massacred every year. Starvation, suicides, drug overdoses, murders, you name it. Preventable deaths. Communicable and non-communicable. Infectious and non-infectious. So that these weirdos can pretend that they're important. Like the Met Gala. It's like a fashion show with a bunch of gays. Maybe a small group of people think it looks cool. Most people don't. No offense to the LGBT community, but that's the bottom fucking line. What the rich, white, Jew, and LGBT communities are doing as groups, not necessarily every individual in the group is consciously doing it, is fucking pathetic. And you got all these whitewashed token minorities helping them out. If that's the American spirit, then to hell with that spirit, right? Because obviously God's spirit is greater than that spirit. When they talk about a spirit of city, for example, New York City, the rotten apple. Is the rotten apple part of the greater American spirit? You betcha. Is God's spirit pure and holy? Or does it include the damn rotten apple and Sin City? Perhaps it includes all those churches that are raping kids. Or Epstein-like people who are abusing people in various ways. The dark bureaucratic spirit of the government, the failed spirit of the current administration, for example, with their political games. Why didn't Donald Trump add $10 billion a year to law enforcement's budget instead of sending, the National Guard here and there in a political way? You need more law enforcement where it's needed most all over the country. Why don't you just increase the budget instead of wasting money with expensive National Guard deployments, people who aren't even trained in law enforcement, they're just trained in basic National Guard activities. It's stupid. So as the American spirit, quote unquote, is quote unquote led by Donald Trump, do you think that is a Holy Spirit? No. So should you celebrate the 250th anniversary of this country? Why God's son is persecuted? What kind of sense does that make? And they expect me to play stupid and be less? Can you imagine? Every American that ever had anywhere near sense is profoundly insulted by the fact that they persecute me. Much less on the 250th anniversary of this country, which is coming up. I might even be alive during it because of the degree of persecution and fuming and poisoning. It's a very sad operation that's taking place here. And they're killing these people all over the world, right, in these shootings. But let's face it, these shootings, in terms of the bigger picture, aren't that important. So a couple Jews died in Manchester. It's sad. But this very day, 25,000 people are going to starve to death and die of hunger-related issues all over the world. Not just in Gaza, all over the world, where there's poor people's hungry. Is the American spirit a spirit of being confused about that? And acting like all that matters is the anniversary of the founding of this country or the Revolutionary War and these little shootings that are occurring? You call that justice. You call that liberty and justice for all. For all. Should justice be limited to people in this country who aren't getting justice, by the way? Is the American spirit silencing these questions? Or is it asking these questions? Because when you define it as the oppressor's spirit, then it's no good. When you refuse to overcome racism and instead you embrace it and play stupid about what it is and isn't, it's no good. When you raise your daughters to put the color of someone's skin over their character when dating, my goodness, you're a devil. If there's no Jew or Gentile, why would there be black or white? Why would be marriages need a racial prerogative to be valid? That's stupid. To each his own spirit, not race. So as you're saying prayers to the devil, as you're in the spirit that's persecuting me, don't expect me to be less. Don't expect me to prioritize Americans' lives over other lives. God doesn't do that. The devil has made America a great military power, not God. And we see that in Ezekiel, where if you're dumb enough to be an idolater and to look toward that, instead of martial arts from God, conveyed through me, then you're an idiot. And if you're in the military or police or you're a general or this or that, and you think that I shouldn't say this, my goodness. Who do you think you are? What do you think America is? It's just a country. You're just somebody in the military. That's all. Should you honor the LAPD when they're beating up Rodney King? Should you honor the military when they're playing stupid about the soldiers who are being raped there? Should you honor the military's mere worldly forms of warfare over divine warfare from God? Do you battle the principalities and the authorities of darkness, or are you battling the flesh? And don't forget, this is a very wealthy and evil country that refuses to compensate me for the years and years of psychological operations. What in the world is worth persecuting Christ for even a moment? It's worth harassing him for. There's no experiment that it would possibly be worth it. And when you compare their arguments to mine, oh my goodness. Do you think God would choose one people randomly? Maybe he rolled the dice and say no matter what, they magically get to inherit Israel, and that the kingdom of heaven magically comes down and they rule over everyone else. Doesn't that contradict Galatians 3:28? There's no Jew or Gentile. Matthew 7, you know them by their fruit. Those who do the will of God versus those who don't. It doesn't say, hey, they have to be people that kiss a Jewish, you know what? Proverbs 16:12 doesn't say the throne is established in being a Jew. And I know there's a bunch of idiots who think all kinds of stupid things. That's why Scripture is basically nonsensical. because it allows for countless interpretations and translations. But the truth is consistent. Righteousness is greater than the flesh. The truth in the verse that says the spirit is everything, the flesh means nothing, is consistent. Two Jews, 3 opinions. 2 million Jews, 3 million opinions, so to speak. But yet you think that they're a light to the world? Have you lost your mind? You think Anton LaVey is a light to the world? Bibi Netanyahu? Maybe Rick fucking Moranis? When you don't judge people by the content of the character, you end up following Bibi Netanyahu like a dumb son of a bitch. That's pathetic. It's not just wrong and evil, it's also pathetic.